To the winds of the south and the great fires of transformation, come. Great wolf, mighty puma, green Tara, Mother Mary, show me the grace of transformation, allowing my heart to be engulfed in the flames of purification, so that I may arise anew each day with a cleansed vision for life. Aho. To the winds of the west and the waters of truth, come. Great elephant, crystal condor, mighty dolphin, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, help me to know all of myself through the chalice of my divine wisdom, forever nourishing me with the codes of this beautiful planet, so that I may know myself and my place in this great cosmic story. Help me to flow within your grace. Aho. To the winds of the north and this beautiful abundant earth, come. Great owl, mighty hummingbird, Sophia dragon, white buffalo woman, ancestors, grandmothers, grandfathers, ancient ones, earth elements, help me to seed my light into the veins of your body, so that we may rise together in a light frequency of love. Aho. To the winds of the east and the element of embodied air, come. Great snake, Isis, Hathor, Archangel Gabriel, peacocks and dragonflies, show me how to rise like the sun in the east, with full embodiment of all of my 12 fractals into this vessel of no thing, so that I may become a gateway and bridge for the love vibration. Aho. Mother Earth, my sweet, sweet mother, we've gathered for the healing of all of your children, the stone people, the plant people, the four-legged, the two-legged, the creepy crawlers, the fin, the furred, the winged ones, all of our relations. Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, Star Nations, you who are known by 1,000 names and you who are the unnameable ones, thank you for bringing us together today to sing the song of life. Cosmic Father Time, Cosmic Mother Space, aho. Hi, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing some updates on my own journey, and so buckle in. The last few, 3 weeks for me have been very intense. The energies have been just boom, 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 boom. So many signs, so many synchronicities, so many leaps. And I've just been trying to stay afloat in all of it. And in that, there have been some deep realizations in my own journey that I feel I'm ready to talk about and share with you to the point that I'm capable of, because as you know, there's always more integration that can happen. So, let's see, I guess it started with the Venus-Sun conjunct gateway, the mother gateway that we did an episode about a few episodes ago. From that moment, I'm going to try to do it in chronological order of how this kind of unfolded. But right around that time, one of my sisters in the energy tribe circle shared this beautiful manifestation of a mirror that she made for an altar mirror. And it has dragons on it. And something within me when she shared this with the group was like, is that winking at me? Is that mine? Is that why do I feel something's pulling me there? And I asked, does she have a website that she sells these on? And she said no. And then I asked who she created it for. And she said that I think she said she created it for a client. So I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of let it sit there, and I let it be what it was. And then about, a couple days later, I was doing a reading with one of you angelic souls. And after the reading, you emailed me and said that the dragons were calling, and you gave me a someone that I could go to kind of explore that idea. And I knew they were calling. I mean, I already had them on my altar, but I hadn't yet embodied that energy. And if you guys have read the Sophia Code and have started training with those different archetypes, you will know that the Sophia Dragon is the last of the embodiments in that series. And what's so interesting is I actually didn't work with that energy. Actually, I'm going to say it's my last embodiment in that series, because I think it's actually key code 7. But I jumped over it and went right to White Buffalo Woman, and I kind of wasn't ready for that energy. And that's been for, God, at least a couple years. And I remember the first time I read it and started working with the dragon energy, one of my friends was like, oh yeah, this is like exactly what you need. And I wasn't ready. Like, it's a lot of power. And I have, as you guys know, I always tell you I'm super introverted. I know it probably doesn't appear that way here, but it takes a lot of it for me to like surrender to that power. So I have been working with it, little bits here, little bits there. I added the dragon to my altar about a year ago, but I hadn't done like a deep one-on-one with that archetypal energy. So when these dragons started appearing, I was like, okay, I have to surrender this. Everything that comes into my life, it's gotten so distilled down that I know if someone is bringing me a sign, I have the choice. I have the choice to either leap forward into that energy, or I can be like, oh, do I really need to get that message from that person? And this is part of becoming full spectrum. When you're full spectrum, you realize that every single thing that appears in your day is a sign for you. And I'm there. So I'm like always antennas up, like who's talking to me? Who's giving me these insights? So what this meant is that I went and booked a reading with the person. The site is called The Dragon Within. And I will link it below if you guys are curious to explore that in your own lives. But I did have a reading. I think her name is Araya. And the reason that I'm not sharing the reading itself, and I went through a period of thinking that I was going to, and then I pulled back from it. And the reason is because, as you guys know, what I put out here, I've only invited 2 other energies on this channel because they are my fractals. They are a part of my bigger soul tree monad family. And this Araya is not. So I went between this feeling of, is it authentic for me to share a reading that did resonate? There were definitely parts of it that resonated, and I gotta know. So I'm just gonna stick with that and understand that maybe I don't understand why, other than it's just not my energy. So, but in that reading, the words that kept coming up for her were like a prismatic dragon. And she said something about how it would be like a solar dragon, but even higher than that. And I know that because I'm from the Mother Gateway and I'm from Venus, and I know I'm from the angelic realm. So yeah, it resonated for sure. And then that reading, let's say, I think it was on a Thursday. And then the next day I was sitting here in my office, and I was just like casually just staring at my altar. And I realized that this energy wasn't fully ready to land because I hadn't created a space for it. And what I mean by that is my altar, when I moved to this house a year and a half ago, I pretty much replicated the altar that I had in my last house. I mean, yeah, a few things had changed, but I was still working with a lot of the same energies. So it had pretty much just been moved from there to here. And as I looked around the altar, I realized it's not me anymore. And not that parts of it weren't me still, but there were every part of the the archetypes that I had in each direction had slightly altered and had slightly changed and had become more predominant. And I had, throughout the year, I had been picking up altar cards to add to it. And I had some new energies coming in there, but it just felt like stagnant. And I'm looking, and the main image in the center of that altar, which again, I created probably 2 years ago, was a beautiful print of a beautiful painting that is the first image that I saw of someone else's reflection of the matrix and the grids. And if you have read the Pearls, Angelic Pearls 144, it's also called The Lattice. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, someone else sees this. And so it's not just me. And I purchased that print, and it had been the center of my altar since then. And it is still a part of my journey, but it's not I've already integrated it. It's not to me anymore like new news. It's always around me. I always see it. It's like me deciding if I want to tune into it or not. But it's not at the time I was like wanting to dive deeper and understanding what it was. And now that I've embodied that and understand it, it's kind of like, okay, it's there. So I knew right away that was, if that's my anchor point of my altar, and I have incorporated that part of myself already, that has to go. Something else is coming in. And as I'm staring at my altar, I'm realizing that it needs to be a mirror, because it needs to reflect this embodiment, this person. And so then I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, I think, and it needs to be a round mirror. And so then my mind is going, okay, I have some mirrors downstairs and some of them are round, and maybe I could use one of those. And then it was like, nope, you know exactly what mirror you're supposed to get, and it has dragons on it. And I was like, oh, well, because it was made for someone else. So I was like, okay, I hear you. And I'm just going to, reach out to this sister of mine, and just maybe she'll make another one, maybe I'll tell her what's happening, and maybe, I don't know, who knows? So I reached out to, her name is Nirvana. And I just said, like, I just was tuning into my altar, and that dragon mirror is asking to come here and to be the center of my altar. And I, like, as I'm asking this, like, I'm just like holding the space open to, maybe there's magic here that I can't see, maybe, I don't know. So I put that out there, and the immediate response was like, oh my God, yes, it's yours. Like, yes, you can have it. And and I told her I would purchase it. And then I was like, so I thought she was going to make me one, but no, she said that she channeled this manifestation of this dragon mirror, and she didn't know who it was for. She just knew it was going to be for someone. And then here I was, from the moment that I saw it, deeply knowing that the energy was for me, but not ready to step into it, because dragon energy just feels like so powerful and strong and centered. And I've been this more, if you guys have known me, I'm kind of like go with the flow. I'm way more in tune with my feminine side than my masculine side. And dragon to me feels like power. Like, now we're getting like manifesting in this time space reality. Now is the time. It's go time. So I was like, she's like, I'll mail it out to you on Monday. And I was like, wait, what? And I said, are you sure? Like, I'm totally, there's no rush. Like, if you need to make another one, and she's like, no, it's yours. I'm sending it out. And it was like here within a few days. And then, so that day, I completely took down everything off of my altar, took it all down. And I started tuning into, okay, if I know that the altar before has gotten me to a certain point, what is ready to come in now? Like, what am I ready to really feel into now so that I can bring down this dragon energy? And I just started playing, and you guys will see if you're watching on YouTube. I'm going to give you a tour of this beautiful new altar and my experience with it, and what's kind of unfolded in this time-space reality, and then also bringing in the dragon energy and let it all come through. So as I worked in this altar, I knew that the elements are the anchor points of the altar. And I mean, obviously, I'm sure we all know that, but how can I actually, the way I was representing them before was on the table part of the altar. I would always have water. I always would light a candle, and I always had an incense there. And obviously my crystals, and I have tree bark, and I would always have the elements present, but I wanted them to be in their places. So first of all, I ordered some altar cards that are the elements with the sacred geometry that goes with each element. And then I have these little crystals that represent my spirit animals, and so I added them to the wall of my altar. And then I was like, how can I take this further? So then I found these little tiny shelves that I could actually put the element with the energy of the altar cards on the wall, so that right underneath the fire, there's fire. In the water, I had collected sacred waters from Mount Shasta and also from Crater Lake in Oregon. And I had brought them home over the summer. So I have little vials of water. And then I have a Lemurian, a Larimar crystal. And then also this little figurine that my best friend gave me. And she is a Pisces energy through and through. And then I also, when I was in Mount Shasta, I found this rock formation that is in the shape of the dolphin. And the dolphins just started, they weren't even one of my spirit animals until I started rebuilding my altar. And then they were like coming in full force. So in the element card that came for water, it has a dolphin on it. And then my dolphin stone is also right above that. And then I started adding in the archetypes that I've been working with. So in fire, it's Mother Mary and Green Tara. Up in water, I have Mary Magdalene and Kuan Yin and my elephant crystal. And then we moved up further, and next came the Sophia dragon. And with the Sophia dragon, I added in some bumblebees. And then in the earth, I have the earth altar, and I have white buffalo woman. I have some crystals, some quartz that came from the beach from Zanita, and they're like water stones. They're very worn down, but I added those. One of my sisters brought me a talisman necklace back from England. I have my owl crystal in that grouping, and then some tree bark that I got from the Sequoia National Forest. Okay. Then we kept going in the circle, and I knew that air has changed. Air to me is always been this elusive element that is the full embodiment. And because I hadn't fully embodied yet, I always played with this okay, originally my animal totems have been the snake and the serpent. And then I added in Isis and Hathor. But then I was like, what else is meant to be in that energy? Well, right away, the peacock came in. And so a friend of mine had made me a peacock smudging feather. And so I added that to the altar. One of my very good friends gave me a Hathor necklace. So that went on there. Then I realized that in air, if that's embodiment, then that's my Archangel Gabriel. So I have 2 altar cards that I added to the element of air. And then on the shelf itself, I added a place to do incense on the wall with the element. And in the altar card of air, we have a bird flying and energy moving there, versus before it was just kind of felt stagnant. It didn't feel like the element because the element wasn't actually there. And then I realized that on the actual surface of my altar, I had been honoring the seven sisters, and I've already worked through that energy, and I realized like I'm holding, and it took up about half of the altar space. So I realized, okay, it's time. This is done, and it's okay to close up that shop. And so I was like, oh, all right. So I took that down. And in the center now of my altar, I have my medicine bundle. And it had always been off to the right-hand side of my altar, but now it's like it's time to hold center space. Then I have this on the left side of the altar, I have the honoring of my ancestors. So first there's an old candelabra that has 3 candles in it. And this candlestick holder came from Richard's grandmother. And it came like as she passed away, his sister gave it to him. And then once we got married, I wanted it on my altar. And then a friend of mine actually gave me the candles to go with it because they're kind of a different size and I didn't have candles in it for the longest time. And then I have a picture of my mom's parents at their wedding day. And then I also have a picture of my dad's mom and her rosary that she carried with her religiously. And then I have a candle that I hold space for my baby G, and also a rose candle that is from Zanita. I've only lit it once in a session that I did for someone. And that session was actually, they asked me to light it for the first time for her because she was part of the rose line. So, and it's a rose candle. And then I have a date written down that I am holding space for the first retreat on this land. And that date is already starting to activate. And so I'm holding it as a placeholder to bring the energy to it. And so far it's already amplifying out. And I'm just like so grateful for that. Then on the other side, I've never been a fresh flowers person, but all of a sudden I realized that now that I have space, this bringing in of the energy of flowers, whether if it's roses or daisies or eucalyptus or whatever the seasonal thing is, it felt very much like me giving attention to what is in the moment with my altar instead of letting it be. I think you might be hearing Sophia. I don't know what she's doing over there. Instead of me kind of neglecting the altar by having the fresh flowers every week, it's having me tune back into what's happening here. And can I actually embody what's happening here? Or is there a part of me that is feeling a little lackluster and that I need to give more attention to that in my prayer? And then I have one of my Andara crystals and the Shekinah energy from an oracle card, which is holding space as the overall archetype. And then I have pearls, and these pearls are rose angel aura rose quartz pearls that are in a dragon, or sorry, not in a dragon, in a peacock vessel. And to me, I'm holding space for the pearls that are coming in the way of you all. And I'm already holding that for that. Like, it's like, it feels like a placeholder that's gathering energy through this portal that I've created for you guys. So what I want to do with them is, as we roll out retreats, each person will get one of these pearls. And what else do I have? Then on the ground is all of my rocks that I've collected on all of my journeys, different wood samples, different candles. And I just feel like all of a sudden I have now 3 dragons on my altar, and the energy was like, ba-boom, it's time to revise your opening prayer. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm sitting there in meditation and trying to tune into, okay, I've set the stage. I'm now open to receive all that I am. So I wrote this new prayer, And I tuned into it with oracle cards, with energy, with trying to understand what each element that had come together, who was calling me, why, and what am I here to learn from it. And that became a new prayer. And that day, I was sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden, I knew, now you're ready to go to ceremony. And I was like, wait, what? Because I haven't felt the call to go back to visit Aya in some time. Now, I know that I did go to a ceremony in May, but it wasn't a normal ayahuasca ceremony. It was in the light of day. And for me personally, I didn't go into my own journey. I was holding space for others. And it's not like that was my intention, but because I was able to be consciously open and allow the energy to move through me, that's what I did. I didn't go in. I had one song that was sung a cappella, and that one song I got to go journey inward. The rest of it was all giving energy out. So I had this feeling that maybe Aya's saying I'm not needed. She's not needed in my experience right now. And, I've even had conversations with my shaman about it, and I'm like, I'm not getting the call. So I don't know when I'll see you again, But then after I created this new opening prayer, it was like, now is the time. And I was like, wait, what? And so my shaman sends out monthly emails, and I went to the email, and it turned out that there was a ceremony coming in just 4 days. And I was like, okay, so this is what I'll do. I'll reach out, and if it's meant to be, there'll be space for me, and I will join. I don't know why I'm joining, but I feel it that I'm trusting, I'm letting go, and I'm trusting to what is. So I reached out, and she wrote me back right away and said, there's one spot left. It's yours. So I was like, okay, so here we go. We're going, So what came in that was so much magic. I mean, so much magic. And I'm not going to get deeply into what came through in the ayahuasca ceremony, but this is the point I want to talk about. All of this had been leading up to, actually, I forgot, the morning that I woke up, that morning that I woke up, so it would have been Tuesday morning, I finished the altar, I did the opening prayer. The dream that I had that morning, was of an egg being implanted into my uterus, but it was very weird, and it was strange, and it was like, what is going on? And I remember in the dream being like, something's strange here. And when I was laying there on the table, I looked to my left, and the tool tray literally was car tools, like a big greasy looking wrench, like car tools. And there was just a bucket of water that the doctors were passing these tools around and just dipping them in the water and going to the next girl. And in the space, there were multiple girls there. And I remember being like, oh my God, is this some illegal underground thing? Like, what's happening? And as he was working on me, I started to bleed. And I said, did I get my period? And he said, no. And I said, did you implant an egg? And he said, yes. And then he took me with him somewhere. And I think that's about the time that I woke up. And I didn't know what this meant. And I was like, I told my friends about it, and it was like the weirdest thing just happened, and I have no idea. And one of my friends had a very good interpretation, which I wasn't ready to embody at the time, but she's like, I think that's your Christ seed coming in, or your higher self is anchoring. And I was like, what? Oh, maybe. So I think that's why I got the call that same day. It's Aya. It's time for Aya. So in my experience with Aya, the reason I hadn't been called, my last session back in November, the main message was that it was time to assimilate. And I did an episode about that, and it's called Assimilate, if you guys want to go back and listen to that. But it's taken me, how many months would that be? I mean, it's almost a year to assimilate all the fractals that I had already started embodying. So in this session with Aya, what I found is that, yes, that egg that was implanted is my final anchoring point. And it is this, look, it's so weird because we call these energies dragons. And I talked to Zenita about it, and she reminded me in the Angelic Pearls book, it says the angelic dragons, the seraphim, are the guardians of the Mother Arc gates. And she's told me a long time ago that I am part of this energy. So I'm like, okay, so is it the power, the fire? And we haven't actually connected for me to go deeper with that energy, but I'm going to tell you what I feel. It is the divine masculine stepping into the feminine and having this different kind of power behind it. Almost like, you know how the feminine is like, it flows and it kind of sometimes questions things and doubts things. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I got that message, but am I ready? Am I, that kind of flowing vibe. The dragon comes in and is like, go. Like, to get off the ground and fly, you need to go now. And it's like, boom. All of these things just came down and were like, this is the final step. Like, you are ready to embody this final energy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, okay. Now, let me back up. I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I got a text from Zenita that said, sometimes miscarriages happen because it's not an actual energy of a new soul coming into your body, but it is the embodiment of more of your soul. And I was like, And I hadn't told her that I had miscarriages. So I was like, okay. And she said, are you working with someone right now? And I said, no. And she goes, okay, so this must be for you. Have you had miscarriages? And I was like, yeah, I've had 6. And she said, okay, let me tune into this. And what came out of her was that I had told her that I was a walk-in. Okay. When we first met, I told her this is how I understood it. And I remember her at the time saying to me, it's not exactly what you think, but okay, if that's what you need to, where you're at, like she kind of, and I didn't want her to tell me what she thought. Because at that time in my journey, that's what I was ready to receive and where I was at. But as she told me about a couple months ago that these miscarriages were just opportunities for more of my essence to come in and land in my body, I realized that never in all of the pregnancies that I have did I get to an ultrasound where there was a heartbeat. They all carried like they would miscarry around 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And I only had to have one DNC, but in that one, which was the latest one, there wasn't a heartbeat. It had grown to the point like the day before, I would assume that it stopped growing because when I went to the ultrasound, there was no heartbeat. And I was like, okay. And with everything, you take it in and you wait for it to feel true to you. So it was something now that was in my field and I was being consciously brought awareness to. And when I had that reading with Araya, I brought it up to her and I said, I identify as a walk-in, but fairly recently, I know that it's possible that it was just instead of it being a different soul that came into this body, that it's just been me embodying deeper and deeper into the body. And then she said, I get a yes for that. So I kind of knew that going into Aya. And then in the Aya ceremony, I got confirmation that yes, it wasn't separate from me, but back when I was 19 and I decided to leave this incarnation, it's like, okay, it's like this with anything with energy. If you clear space, more of you can drop down. So my ego at that point in my life was ready to leave, right? Because of situations that I was going through in the third dimensional reality. by me leaving and saying, I agree to leave this reality, it created a vessel for more of my soul to drop in. And then from that point on, my life changed. Prior to that, I was pre-med and I was not creative in any way. After this happened, I started taking classes in all different subjects, and I ended up studying fine art and art history. And that's what my degree is in. And I changed. I completely changed who I hung out with. I was in a sorority before. Right after that happened, I left the sorority, and that ended those relationships. I just started exploring who I was. After I graduated, I moved to Europe. And then I always even though I got stuck in the matrix, I always had this part of myself that was very different from who I was when I was growing up, which was like the cheerleader and the person that, was right in the middle of the matrix. But after that, more of my essence dropped in back when I was 19. It took so many years for me to be at the next stage where I could embody more of myself, which didn't happen until I was, it would have been like 43 years old, 42 or 43. And actually, no, it would have been before that, because if the miscarriages were part of the energy, I started miscarrying around 36, 37, and then they were kind of spaced out from there. And the thing is that even though the energy was dropping in with each miscarriage, I didn't know it. I wasn't conscious of it. And what was happening is I was going deeper and deeper into the dark night, which the dark night is because the resonance between the soul dropping in and me, the personality, were so opposites. It was so uncomfortable to live my life at that point, because I couldn't understand why this healthy person isn't able to have children, And I remember feeling like, this is why I'm here. I'm here to be a mother. So why is this happening? And I also went through this part of myself that was like, I wish Richard was the problem so that I could just blame someone and so then I went through the period of hating myself. And all of that brought on that dark night so deeply that I understand now that the more that they built on each other, the more of my essence that dropped in, the more I hated who I was. And what that did is it eventually broke me open. It was the thing that the dark night is like your calling card. Now's the time. Your path is coming. But at the time, I didn't know anybody that was awoken, or I didn't know this world existed. So I didn't know that. But now I can share that when you are in the depths of it, that's because it's your time to pop. Your popcorn is coming. And I eventually, and I had one more miscarriage after I awoke. But in each of them, they showed me that it was just more of myself dropping in and dropping in. And then when I became conscious of it 4 years ago, there were other ways for it to come in. So like through ayahuasca, through my own discoveries, through, 5-MeO-DMT was a big one, through all of the journeys of me surrendering myself. Even cannabis is another way that I've used as a tool to surrender that tight assness of who my personality identifies with. And about a month ago, I had been asked to stop cannabis. And by that, I mean, I just knew intuitively that it was time to stop it. And I went through this period of I miss it, but because to me, cannabis, I'm like one with my higher self. It's like walking embodiment. And because there was still that friction in me that felt like, I just want to get there. I don't want to go through a meditation to just get some glimpses of it. I just want to be there. Well, about a month ago, it was like, nope, you're done with it. It's a beautiful tool, and it's something that you can definitely have again at some point. But right now, this is where you're at. It's time to fully embrace understanding consciously. So in ayahuasca, it just was more of that, and understanding that, yes, I had to let that energy of the plants go so that I could then commune with ayahuasca now, because she wouldn't have called me if I didn't let go of cannabis. That's the interesting thing. And I've heard this before. Cannabis and ayahuasca are not partners. They do not mix together. So there would have had to been a dieta between both. And I just knew, like, she's not calling me. So then this will be my medicine until she calls again. So what I got is that at this point in my journey, I am embodied fully. I have to trust with the deepest part of my heart that everything that comes through this knowingness, this vessel of no thing, is the embodied part of me. I have to let go 100% of the doubt, which when I was on cannabis, I could do very easily. But me and my personality time would be like, oh, should I say that? Or is that really... I mean, I don't know. Is that really for that person? You know, like you would have all of these doubts about it. Well, now it's like, no, I know. And this is, and I also know now the things that I have to let go of and trust that other people will pick up the things that the seeds that I drop. And it's like this full surrender of the dragon. Like the dragon energy doesn't have this like, should I, shouldn't I? Am I really getting that or am I not getting that? It's like, no, I'm here. So, this is what's happened. And it feels like a very, the word that Araya used was prismatic dragon. And if you go to her site, you'll see like she has an oracle card deck that it's more elemental dragons. And she said like, I've not seen this dragon before, but I mean, I feel like it's cosmic, it's prismatic, it's holding full spectrum. It's all of the spectrums. And it's like, the thing is it's not just me. I'm realizing my spectrum is white and clear. And what that means is the ability to hold all spectrums and allow those spectrums to move through me as if they are me. So when I tune into something or someone and I feel them now, it feels like it's me. And I remember when I was working with Faith in the beginning of her, like, I would say landing, I remember feeling like every musical note of her voice and the words that she shared and every nuance was nectar. And I told Richard, like, this is the nectar to me. This is literally what I live for. Like, this is why I'm here. It's because it's like a part of me is landing back home into my full spectrum of who I know myself to be. And all I have to do is be the no thing to feel them all. And I mean, it's like, it's become very magical because this just happened like days ago, like this knowing and completely understanding. But now it's like, I can feel so deeply into just like one conversation here, one there. Nope. Yes. No. Yes. And it's like, I know without a doubt, like today, I'm going to tell you something that happened. I'm making something and I want to make something out of peacock feathers. And I went to Etsy and I was like, let me find some feathers on Etsy. And I did find them. But then I was like, wait a minute. I was in town the other day and I was at the post office and there was a peacock that crossed my path. And so I know they're local to my area and they're wandering around the streets. So someone must have them. So I decided to post on our Facebook town group that I was looking for peacock feathers. And, you know, a bunch of people replied that they had them, but one person said, I have ethically sourced feathers. And it was the thing. I knew, okay, this is the person. So I only reached out to her. We arranged to meet. And we met this morning. And as I looked at her energy, and she's maybe listening, I don't know, I knew she's one of my spectrums. And I said, she says to me, I have a lot of feathers, so if you ever need more, just let me know. And I was like, really? Why? And she said, I make jewelry. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then we started talking about where the feathers came from. And And then the dogs were in the car and I was bringing them for a walk. So I kind of like ended the conversation, got in the car. And the moment I got in the car, I was like, why didn't you ask her where she sells her jewelry? So I texted her back right away and was like, hey, I forgot to ask you. And then she sends me her website and I go to the website and I knew it. She is already of this vibration. And so I texted her right away and I said, I knew it. I could feel you. I knew that we were the same. And this is my first local person that I've been able to tune into to that degree and just know. And, sometimes it's through words, like she put ethically sourced. And I knew that was my key, because just like when I had shared that we were looking for a kitten, all of these kittens came in and it was overwhelming. And I didn't reply to, I like, they sent me photos. So I got photos of all these kittens, but I didn't see any of them. I knew none of them were ours. I had to go through the journey of finding Sophia and let Sophia come in her own time. And knowing that I have to trust that it is a process, instead of my mind thinking, I want a kitten and therefore there's 100 right in front of me. I can pick any one of them. And I knew none of them were ours. I have to feel it and trust that feeling. So this dragon energy is a whole new source of me. A lot has transpired within just this few days ago. Like it feels like expanding and expanding and expanding and allowing other spectrums to come in and trusting deeply that when they are there for me, it is because we're here for medicine for each other, and that I can't do this myself. And I need a pack, and I need to allow that energy to move as it's supposed to move. And that's like also part of being centered in the dragon energy, is like I can clearly feel now the difference. So as I mentioned, like already these retreats are like coming in hot and I am like just in awe of the whole new business that's arriving, and business feels so third dimensional. And I mean, I'm calling it a gateway, and it is a gateway, and it's just holding space for that gateway to open. And it's a lot. So what I want to say is that in the next few months, I may be only doing episodes every 2 weeks, because what's trying to land right now is the mystery school, and it's going to be called the Pearl Mysteries. It's the structure is there, the content, the outline of the content is there. Octave 1 is going to be the first launch, and I have to start recording the videos for all of these pearls. And what it's going to look like is that there's 5 modalities in that. The first is the ether, which is the finding the center. Then it moves down to the south, which is the fire, which is transformation. And then we move to water, which is truth. Then we move up to earth, which is light seed. And then we move over to air, which is embody. And in Octave 1, each of those modules have 4 classes. Each of the classes will be $44. If you buy all of Octave 1, it will be $444. And with that is going to be a community, a monthly meeting, and how would I say, mentorship with the full package. But then what it's going to allow me to do is that I have the seedling, the Octave 1, and then I can start moving up in octaves and up in octaves and up in octaves as I go through the journey, and keep going deeper and deeper into the spiral, so that as we each are on our own journeys, you have the tools right there to help you in the level that you're at, and the support around it to help to create your own nest or your own hives. So it's a lot that has to birth through me, and it feels like it has to come within the next month or so. So I am just surrendering to all of it. And I just want to say I'm so honored to be ready for this. I have been mentally ready for a long time, but the energy, the dragon hadn't landed yet. And now it has. And I just want to say thank you. On top of that, I want to reiterate this. and what I've learned, and the kind of, I guess I would call it a lesson that I've learned, is that when we start working with an archetype or an energy, we see it as outside of ourselves, right? Like whether if it be spirit guides, spirit animals, archetypes, dragons, whatever, angels. When it's incorporated, you understand that it's actually your fractal. And just like the walk-in, I've been sitting here talking about this and understanding that we are just here to embody the fractals. But my walk-in was my final fractal of embodiment. I had it as out, not like it wasn't me. Like I would call it braiding with it this whole time, but I never understood it as my original soul until I could, until I could fully embody it. And now I know that, yes, it is a form of walking in, but my full essence is in this body. And now I have to create, and I have to bring forward what it wants to birth and step out of the way to allow it to birth. So I feel so grateful that you guys are on this journey with me, and I would not be able to do it without the support of all of you. Every email that I get, every conversation that I have with you guys, it makes me know that I'm in the right space-time reality, and it's safe to come down. It's safe to start amplifying this energy. So I am deeply grateful for all of you, and I will see you in a couple weeks.